Welcome back. All right, so today's video for the Entertainment Guy channel, I wanted to talk about as Christmas is upon us, right? We've got less than 3 weeks, and this is always a good time to throw out there that on Christmas Day we do have a live stream we do on the main channel. We don't usually do it on this channel. We haven't had a live stream on this channel in a while. I think we're overdue for a live stream on this channel. At any rate, this is also a channel where I could just run the live stream myself. As much as people enjoy seeing my lovely wife during live streams, there are times where I've done them by myself if I need to. So I want to talk about a bit about Christmas coming up, and I want to talk about how much of a nightmare it is for my wife. Because just think about it. So you want to buy me hockey? I've probably got it. Supplies for the room here, I've probably got it. Last week I got a third easel like this one, so I've got 3 of these now. I'm all set. All 3 of them being utilized every day, and yeah, so I'm all set with that. I've got more markers than I need. Before the NHL season started, I ordered 2 boxes of 144 markers, and just last week I got 36 more black markers because most of the markers are different colors, and when I don't use black, people complain because they can't read the board, even though I'm like, how do you read the board? I can barely read this board. How much are you zooming in? At any rate, as I've always said too, the notes are kind of for me more than for anybody else, but that's me. And clothing, any other kind of clothing that you want to buy me, well, good luck, because like I have a lot of clothes. I know when I went through a breakup in 2014, I went on this crusade to replace my wardrobe. I'm like, I got to completely refresh my look. I got to change it. And that's when I started getting more and more jerseys too, right? So I'd get, I think that first year, I think I got maybe 20 jerseys that first year, and it just sort of grew from there. And I already had like about 20 jerseys in my collection before I started really adding to it. So getting clothes, like there's places I've sent her where I'm like, well, you can check this store. There's a few things I haven't ordered yet. And I did stop ordering stuff too. Unless it's jersey related. I know she doesn't buy me jerseys anymore. She did. She bought me my first Winnipeg jersey, which was nice and all. But yeah, it has to be difficult buying clothing, buying anything for me, because there's 2 dangers. One, if I don't have it, I might buy it before Christmas rolls around. And 2, I may already have it. I may not even be aware. It can be interesting when I get a hat and I'm like, I really like that hat, and then I go to put it in with the other team's hats. I'm like, and then I'll go to Yvonne and say, do you want to see if Gabriel or Malachi want a new hat? Because I already have this one. I don't really need it. So it's happened. It's happened with pucks. It's happened with various collectibles. Doesn't happen with jerseys anymore. I've got the jersey thing pretty much contained, where I know what I have and what I don't. Which is it's important in all the inventorying stuff that I do and all of that. So Christmas is tough. Now, Christmas is also a time of year for introspection. And I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who stuff. Thus the Doctor Who Doctor Who t-shirt. I do have 2 Doctor Who jerseys, though. One Dalek and one that's TARDIS themed. But it is interesting. Of course, they also have on Geeky jerseys, they have a Weeping Angels jersey as well. So just throwing out there, I do not have the Weeping Angels one. No, my wife didn't order me that one because, she doesn't buy me jerseys. But thinking about Doctor Who, and one of my favorite speeches is when Matt Smith's going to regenerate. And it's about regeneration, but I've always kind of taken it to heart. We're all changing. We all change when you think about it. We're all different all through our lives, and that's okay. That's good. You've got to keep moving, so long as you remember all the people you used to be. And I feel like as I've gotten older, that's become more and more accurate for me, where I look back to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, back to when I was a kid. I don't identify with that person now. I look back on situations I had, stupid decisions I made, and realize I wouldn't have made that decision if you placed it on my plate now. And that there are certain things that I didn't do back then that I would look at now and I'd say, yeah, I absolutely should have. The trick is always to have that balance between looking back on the past and viewing it as fondly as you can, versus dwelling on the past and things that didn't happen and getting bitter and everything. So there's that fine line there, but it definitely, and again, part of it being that I'm self-employed, I work from home, I have time to think about things that I don't normally think about, that I didn't think about when I had a regular full-time job outside of the home, or I was maybe too busy and I didn't have time to think about it. Definitely I do think about those things more. I find that I'm far more introspective than I was, a lot less angry than I used to be as well. I feel very blessed and very grateful for what I've had and what I have right now. And that's why it's important to me to work every day to make sure that I don't trip up. I don't end up, because I've seen with some of the channels I even follow on YouTube, we're like, we'll take a little bit of time. We're just gonna take a little bit of time, and then they're gone. Like, or they're not the same when they come back, right? So I want to make sure I stay in that routine and I keep that going. Now, also in the theme of Christmas, I do try to help where I can when I can, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's charity. I do my best with that. It's something that Yvonne and I talk about a lot, especially when the holidays roll around, where you reach out to somebody that is having a hard time. And in my case, I've done that with two people who've said, no, things are fine, but thanks for asking. In her case, she did reach out to somebody who said, actually, yeah, things are pretty bad right now. So this is something that we are conscious of and we try to do in our everyday life, which is, I think, part of the reason why people just hear all this stuff and assume, well, he's got to be religious, right? Well, I was. So again, because it's Christmas, it feels like it's a topical discussion. I'm not going to get into all the everything that happened with me when it came to a religious journey, but I did go to the Adventist church when I was a little kid. I did go during, they had like this summer thing that they were doing, and I remember going when I was a little kid to that. I think it was like 4. And so we had Sabbath school because they go on Saturday instead of Sunday. So I'd go to that, and eventually, that came to an end. So I was like, well, that was kind of fun. And then at one point, I ended up, going to a series of meetings that the church was putting on about here's what we believe, here's why. And if you attend all these meetings, you get $50. So I was like, I can use $50. I was 14, 15 at the time, so I didn't mind the idea of having $50. So we went to all these. I got my $50. I got myself a jacket and a pair of pants and everything that lasted me about 6 months. That was a bad move. I knew I should have got a pair of nice Levi's, but no. I had to go to Bootlegger and get something that I thought was mildly trendy, and it was trendy for about 5 minutes. So and that's the error. That's where you look back and you're like, but why? But you can't really dwell on that too much. But I did become a church member at age 15. I was in the church until I was roughly 25. I did everything in the church. I at one point in time even considered going to college and training up to become a pastor for a church. Which I ultimately decided against for reasons that include cost, time, and just looking at what that job entailed and saying, I don't think I'm made for this. I don't think I could contain some kind of outbreak of constant cursing and swearing, having to deal with what some of these pastors have to deal with. So I really appreciated that they went through what they went through with the church, and some pastors are obviously going to be better than others, as you're going to have no matter where you're at. Sometimes I really enjoyed the pastor a lot. Sometimes I did not. The one that talked me into getting baptized, got me in the church, I liked him a lot. He was great. Him and his family were awesome. But again, some of the other pastors that come in after, not as much. And eventually I just kind of fell out of it. I just kind of decided this isn't what I want to do. I started going to a different church that went on Sundays. I never got baptized into that or anything, but I went with friends of mine. It was more of a social thing too. And then the social aspect of religion and church, I do kind of miss. Like that's the one aspect that I can say, yeah, I do have a fondness for that when I look back, and I do miss that. But at the same time, I eventually realized that wasn't really my mindset, and that I am definitely drawn far more towards science, far more towards some of the things that really clashed with the religious aspect, stuff that I had when I became religious. I kind of had to tone down a little bit on how much I followed some of the scientific stuff that I was really interested in and all that, because again, it really went against what I was being told every Saturday in church and even every Sunday when I was in the other church after that. But it's definitely a journey that it was interesting. I'm glad I went through that. I have no interest in a religion at this point, unless there's one that involves hockey. Sure, there isn't. The ones that were about like the Jedi Church, the Star Wars like that was I read about that at one point. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. That might be kind of fun. But outside of that, like it's really not for me. However, I still like to speak and act the way that I would have when I was in church when I do videos. It's something I kind of put in my mind like it's my church speak. Or one of the reasons I have my grandmother's photo on the set at all times is because I remember that when I was around my grandmother, I didn't swear. I watched what I talked about. My grandmother was the one who usually took me to church. We always had a good time in church together, and yeah, I mean, I miss my grandmother every day. So I do view the videos that I make as being kind of an extension of that, and so that's why I think why some people watch my videos and think, well, he kind of has to be religious, but I'm really not, and I don't really have any interest in it. But I do appreciate people's views on all of that, and yeah, so there you go. And it doesn't mean that it affects my enjoyment of Christmas. I've always kind of viewed it that if if this life is what I'm given and this is it, then I have to make sure that I'm living it to the best of my ability and that I'm enjoying it. Thus, the vacations that are taken twice a year, and just keeping everything in perspective as well, which can be tough when you're working every day. But you got to keep it all in perspective. I do my best to do so, and to keep in mind that with the job I have now, that part of it is, I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it, there's sort of a counseling aspect to it for certain things. Like, I know there's people that are going through, and at this time of year, it can be really, really pronounced. The depression of the season is there, and so I do my best to make sure I'm consistent in my content, in part because of that, because I know there's people going through a lot. I've gone through that myself, talked about it on this channel, so I figured, why not throw in this discussion as well. So I hope everybody has a good holiday. You can see I have the Christmas tree there in the background. But I also understand, too, it is not necessarily always a happy time of year for people, and I am completely aware of that, and I understand that, because there have been Christmases where I did not celebrate, where I didn't put up a tree, I didn't have lights, I was like, nope, it's just another day, I'm just going to let it go, and I would just kind of hibernate until about the 2nd or 3rd of January, and then I'd go and try to take advantage of everything being on sale. Decide to drown my sorrows with shopping for cheap items. So I don't do that now, but I do still keep my eye open for things that are on sale. But I have it. I have it all. I At this point, like anything that I like, I'm not difficult to please. I'm happy with whatever. And so if I wake up on Christmas morning and I've got a box of pens and a T-shirt from Yvonne, that's good enough. That's good. Thank you. And it doesn't have a negative effect on the rest of my day. I think part of that is because on Christmas morning when I was a kid, my dad would get jealous that I had more presents than him, which is just bonkers. Christmas is for kids. So I've always kind of kept that in the back of my mind of Christmas is for kids. And so, yeah, there's that. But it's also that time of year for giving, and that time of year to check in on people and to say, hey, are you okay? Especially if somebody's lost a loved family member that year, if they've lost a pet, and for people who want to just disparage, those that are mourning the loss of a pet, get over it. It can be tough. Like you can have a really strong bond with your animal, and so I don't mock people that are upset with that either. But you never know what kind of struggles people might be going through this time of year, so it doesn't hurt to check in. So go ahead and do that. Just say, hey, THG said I should check in, or TEG in this case said I should check in. And then they'll be like, who the heck is that? And you started a conversation. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support throughout the year. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already, or if you're just browsing your way through, or if you didn't know I had a second channel, that kind of thing, right? Thank you guys for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.